Hello and welcome to this Jira Align Product Demo with Accelerate. I'm Shane Gallen and I am delighted to have you with us today as we dive into the enterprise strategy and planning capabilities of Atlassian's Jira Align. This session is for senior leaders, portfolio management, product managers, and strategic decision makers like yourself who are looking to optimize their teams, their delivery, their processes, their business and customer outcomes, and ultimately connect their strategy to execution across their organization. Today, we're going to be looking at the connected enterprise, Atlassian System of Work, and Jira Align's capabilities that enable that enterprise strategy and planning capability. Before joining Accelerate, I worked with a number of different teams and organizations and often found myself dotted across this visualization, whether it was working with leadership teams or delivery teams or service teams. I was always trying to piece together the work, the outcomes, and the different information and data that's kind of felt like it was everywhere. And whilst this was frustrating and inefficient, it was also creating a dependency on me. And I felt like there really had to be a better way to do this. And it turns out that this challenge is actually more common than I thought. Today, over 70% of organizations still operate off spreadsheets, and the data that they're using to make decisions present a huge liability in that decision making process, with data being manually compiled, often presenting errors and contention when it comes to decisions. With it, there's a high cost of creating, analyzing, and presenting that data and information. And to quote a global CIO that we worked with, it felt like everything was everywhere. So to move from that feeling of everything is everywhere to a feeling of a more connected enterprise, this is where we can really see the benefits of Jira Align and the Atlassian System of Work. So we can start to understand our people and understand our people in the context of the work that is prioritized and being implemented, and in the context of the different time horizons that we're planning, executing, and delivering value to our customers. With this connected data set, we can also understand this from the context of important business vectors such as our products, our OKRs, or objectives and key results, the value streams that exist across our organization from different domain perspectives, and also understands this from a budget perspective. So that investments that we're allocating to different strategies and initiatives, how is that performing? So we've got the who, the what, the why, and the when, providing clarity from strategy to execution for all teams across the enterprise and giving them the confidence that they have everything that they need when they need it to make decisions. And with this real-time data and connectivity, they really have this decision advantage at the tips of their fingers. Forrester done research with a number of different organizations who adopted Jira Align and found that as they connected the dots, they could align 100% of their work to strategy, empower teams, and increase productivity whilst improving time to market, and ultimately be able to make faster and better decisions with a reduction in manual data gathering and an increase in the quality of the data that was being used to make decisions. So let's have a think about Atlassian System of Work. And first of all, let's explore the different principles that sit behind this system. These principles come from Atlassian's experience and consist of aligning all work to share goals, planning and tracking work together, and being able to unleash collective knowledge. The system of work itself comprises of a number of different capabilities and products on a shared platform, with Jira Align sitting at the roof of the house, so to speak, providing leadership teams with executive planning and executive strategy and planning capabilities. So we can connect our executives and leadership teams and our strategy with our product and development teams and our IT and support teams with a good foundation for all teams set in the Jira, their Confluence, Loom, and Rovo. So executive teams can set that strategy, manage their portfolios, and optimize customer value. And today we're going to look at Jira Align in the context of that strategy lifecycle. So the definition, the planning, the execution, and of course, being able to gain real-time insights so we can learn and improve. So let's jump into Jira Align. So we're in a view called the strategy room, and this is a space for executives, teams, strategic leaders to not just define their strategy. So here we are inside Jira Align, and we are in a space called the strategy room. This is somewhere for executives and leadership to not just define their strategy and start to align their teams with those strategic goals, but also have the ability to monitor and track the progress of their strategy. We're looking at a specific strategy called the Corporate Strategy 2024, and front and center are our mission, vision, and values, with all the underpinning long term goals and long term strategies, objectives, and work that comprise this strategy. We get to see straight away where there's misalignment of the work, with 4 themes and 4 features misaligned as part of the strategy. And with that misalignment, we have capacity and investment that we are just never going to get back. And it's unlikely that this is going to move the needle of our strategy in the direction that's intended. We also get a sense of how the work items are progressing, or maybe not progressing as expected. So with a few clicks, we can understand the detail behind this and start to think about the actions that we need to take as leaders to realign our teams with the strategy, or remove some of the blockers to progress that may exist. And to understand how our strategic goals are connected with those objectives and key results that are set across different levels of the organization, we can use Jira Align's goal tree to track everything from our strategic goal level down to our team level objectives and key results. So we can see that connectivity and understand how that's tracking and the work that's connected with it. We will circle back to this view later in the demo to look at the different insights that we can take from this to help learn and improve how we execute our strategy. So as we move from that definition space into planning, there are going to be ideas that are surfacing through different discovery activities, as well as ideas that are being generated from our different customers and stakeholders across our enterprise and external to our enterprise as well. So Jira Align's ideation portal enables us to create a space for those ideas and understand which ideas we should maybe think about prioritizing today versus maybe shelving for a later date, or just completely shelving for now. So we can manage that flow with the ideation backlog and transition these ideas into different items of work. So as we're thinking about planning, we can convert this to a story or an initiative or a capability or feature. This allows us to then move this work into the different strategic backlogs that exist within our enterprise. And as we move into those backlogs, today we're going to look at a portfolio backlog and think about the flow of value from those ideas coming in from into our funnel, and all the steps that it takes to move them through our portfolio governance and value stream to a point where we're implementing them as a MVP or a minimum viable product in this scenario, to them being completed and done, and we're actually delivering the value that was intended. We can guide those conversations and decisions using what are called exit criteria. So here, as things come into the funnel, or those ideas come in, and we are starting to think about those in terms of whether or not we have connected them to an objective and key results, or maybe we should be thinking about creating a new objective and key results. And as we move to that portfolio backlog and start to think about implementing, have we thought about capacity? Has that been allocated? Do we have enough capacity? And have we any budgets that still need to be approved? Does this align back to our company vision and strategy? These are the types of questions that we might be asking as we govern our portfolio management process. We also get to capture some really good lean data here in terms of time and process step or cycle time, and time and value stream or your lead time. So now we can start to paint a picture of where there might be bottlenecks in the flow of value through our portfolio. So as we're managing this process, we also want to think about how we prioritize our backlog, and this is where we can move into the list view. And depending on how you're prioritizing your initiatives in your organization, Jira Align can really flex to meet your needs. So whether or not you're doing weighted shortest job first to help sequence and think about the cost of delay of your initiatives, or maybe you're using some point estimates for strategic value scoring and the effort that's going to be required, or maybe you need a custom scorecard for your organization. Jira Align can flex to those needs, and as you're looking at your backlog, you can prioritize it based on those different value dimensions. So I'm just going to prioritize the backlog based on weighted shortest job first. Now we can communicate to our different stakeholders the value of the investment that it's going into these different initiatives. We can build up that view by actually adding the detail to the initiative itself. So not just the details of what it is and who's working on it and what sort of time we're looking to implement this initiative, but also maybe some details around the intake and the different benefits that we're thinking about for this specific initiative. So we can start to build out that desired future state versus the current state and any success criteria that we're going to measure as a result. If we're thinking about the different value and milestones, we can start to shape that as well in our backlog. And we can use what's called value engineering as well as these scorecards. So value engineering allows us to build out that hypothesis. So what do we expect to get from this investment? And then as we're placing those bets on the investment itself, what sort of investment do we need for research versus implementation? And as we start to implement this idea as an initiative, what value are we getting as a result? And from this, we can really make a good decision on whether we pivot or persevere from this piece of work. So value engineering gives us that ability to understand the efforts and spend versus the value that we're getting to date. We also want to think about how much effort is this going to take from a capacity perspective. And this is where we can start to think about forecasting. So each item in the backlog, we can select the quarter or the planning interval and start to generate some estimates. We can do this at the portfolio level at the very early stages and do that estimates, or we can source those estimates from the different programs and the different teams as they start to break the work down. So we've got that top down and bottom up approach to estimation and the ability to understand how those estimates differ as we start to learn more about this initiative or solution. When we're in that planning stage as well, we'll be thinking about risks and dependencies. So we can start to build those into our initiative as well and start to really create a rich set of data to help us understand how we're going to implement this, what risks exist, and maybe what might prevent us from delivering this and progressing. So now when we're thinking about that capacity and forecast and thinking about maybe starting to implement, Jira Align's capacity capability allows us to do just that. So we can look at all our different programs, all our different teams, how many people are comprised in each team and program, how many weeks are available in a specific quarter, and if we want to add in some buffer time as well for holidays, for innovation, for planning maybe for the next quarter, or potentially we've got some training coming up, we can do just that. And we can also start to think about the impact of overutilizing our teams and programs and reduce the available capacity to maybe 80 or 90% to account for that unplanned, unknown work that's likely to pop up. So now we can really think about being more predictable in our delivery. In this portfolio, we can see that we're slightly over capacity, but we do have some buffering in there as well. So we might decide that this is okay and we're happy to proceed with the plan. To understand what items in the backlog might be impacted, we can move into Jira Align's forecasting capability, which is going to look at our backlog, but from the context of capacity and priority. We can also add some more information here around the estimates and what themes this aligns with. But straight away, we get a visualization and some alerts in terms of this red text on screen. So we can see here that the mobile program is actually over capacity by 104 member weeks. If you're doing this in points, of course, you can configure this view to be to present it in the perspective of a capacity as points. But for this example, we're using member weeks, and we can see straight away that the first initiative impacted by this capacity constraint is the guided search initiative. So now we can have conversations around, do we slice this a bit differently so we can still deliver it in this quarter or this planning interval? Or is this something that we're going to have to maybe move into our next quarter? And we can have those good conversations and manage expectations with different stakeholders and teams. So let's think now about visualizing our backlog or plan, and we can use Jira Align's roadmap to do just that. So this is where we can build those strategic roadmaps in terms of our different themes and our initiatives, and in the context of the time that we're looking to deliver those in. So here we're looking at our initiatives, and we've got visualization of key dates in terms of when we're starting them versus looking to complete them. And we can also see key milestones visualized on each initiative as these stars. The flags here are showing us where we've got objectives that we're looking to hit on a specific date. So maybe we are trying to meet a specific deadline around Christmas in terms of releasing something. Maybe we've got something that's regulatory that we need to hit a specific outcome or milestone on. Or maybe there's other market trends that are really driving these key dates. The visualization also allows us to track progress in real time. And this progress is coming from the work that the teams are doing inside of Jira. So as they complete stories, complete their features, we're seeing real-time progress here on the roadmap. So depending on what you're doing in terms of planning or understanding this from an execution perspective or communicating with external stakeholders, you can toggle on and off different data on the roadmap to tell that story. And of course, you can open up any initiative here and understand the detail in a wee bit more rich detail. So maybe we want to understand what these milestones are and what sort of state they're in. So as we move into execution, we have the ability to track and monitor that with a number of different views. This is the program room where it's bringing together the progress and all the work, not just the features and initiatives, but the dependencies, the risks and the objectives for a specific program. And we're looking at a planning interval here. So maybe that's a quarter in your context, but we can see how we're progressing against the work. We're also seeing how each team is progressing. And we can see, again, from a capacity perspective, if we're overloaded for this specific increment. We've also got our dependencies and what sort of state they're in. So Jira Align has a different approach to dependencies than Jira. So here we can see the relationship between the teams and the work and what state those dependencies are in. So are they not committed, proposed, committed but not delivered, and ultimately presenting risk to the success of this delivery. We can see our objectives and what state they're in, and we can see our risks as well. We've got the backlog here front and center, and we can see how each of these items are progressing. And of course, with this being integrated with Jira, each of these features and stories are synced bidirectionally with Jira itself. So as teams progress the work in their backlogs, you can see the progress here in real time. As we look at these items as well, within Jira Align, as we open a story or a feature or any other work item, we can understand how it connects to our strategy. And this data is available in Jira and Jira Align. So developers and delivery teams can continue to work in Jira without having to move between both tools. So for this specific story, we can see the feature that this contributes to, which strategy that's driving. So this one's driving a reduction in our technical debt. We also have a view of the initiative that this is part of and the strategic score for this initiative, and what theme this is part of for our strategy and what strategy this is enabling. So we're looking to capitalize on emerging technologies trends here. So we've got this connected view from strategy to execution, but also from execution to strategy. Before we move out of the program room, there's a couple of other key capabilities that we've got within this view. We can see where there's orphan work, so work that sits within our backlogs that are not connected to strategy, and we can open that up and understand why that might be. We can also dovetail out into different reports. So for our dependencies or our risks or our objectives, we can open different views of this data to help not just inform us during our execution phase, but also to learn and gain insights and improve how we move forward. The dependency maps themselves provide us with a view of the delivery risk, was also providing us with a view of how these teams are connected. So what are those interaction modes and how might that be impacting delivery? And from this data, can we learn and maybe run some experiments next quarter in terms of how we structure our teams? So have we got a high dependency on a specific team versus another team, and is that impacting the flow of value? So the dependency wheel shows us these interaction modes. It's one of many views, and we get a visualization here in terms of what sort of risk we've got with these interactions, not just the number of interactions. So with the green interaction mode here being good, these are dependencies between teams that have been done or delivered. The blue ones are ones that are committed but not delivered, so there's still some risk there depending on where you are in terms of your implementation. And the red ones, of course, red always means that there's something not quite right. So the red ones are showing us that these are interactions between dependent teams that are either blocked or there's no commitment for this specific interval of time. So where we're seeing those heavy clusters, we can essentially open up that detail. So we're going to look at the niners here. There's quite a lot of dependencies between teams here and interactions. And we can see what work others need from the niners, and also what work the niners need from others, and what states are those commitments in. So we can see what's not committed, what's committed versus what's done. And I did promise we were going to come back to the goals tree. And here we are. So we're in execution, or we're maybe thinking about how we improve from what we've just delivered. The goal tree gives us that type of data from how we're actually delivering against those outcomes and our strategy. So here we're seeing all our goals and the underpinning objectives and key results, and we're seeing it in the context of not just how it connects to strategy, but how are we progressing against the key results versus the work. So sometimes we'll be putting a lot of effort into the different initiatives and features, but we're not seeing the outcomes that we expect. So what do we do here? Do we pivot? Do we persevere? And in contrast to that, we might actually be seeing a lot of success in terms of key results with not as much progress through the work. So again, do we pivot away from some of the work that's connected to these outcomes and look at what other initiatives we could maybe start and hit some of our other objectives? Or do we continue to try and maximize those results with the work that we've got in the backlog? To help inform that type of decision, we might want to understand the different key results, how they're tracking over time, and the underpinning work that exists. So whether you're not progressing as expected or you're progressing way better than expected, we can see how those key results are trending over time with the key results reports. And we can see this specific key results was actually accelerated quite quickly at the start and then kind of leveled off. And we may decide that, you know what, we're going to pause right here, but we want to understand the work that sits underneath it. So we can see all the themes, the different initiatives, how they're progressing, any of the dependencies that exist that may be slowing the progress of the work, presenting risk to us achieving this specific objective and key results. And of course, any risks that exist as well. So we've got the outcomes here, we've got the key results, we've got the work, we've also got the context of who's working on this, and if we've got any specific targets in terms of dates that we're looking to hit this outcome. So recognizing that the insights that we gain from these different views within Jira Align might not meet all the needs that you have within your organization. So we want to think about how we can take that data out and get it into your different business intelligence platforms. Atlassian, of course, have Atlassian Intelligence. So we can bring this data from Jira Align along with the rest of the Atlassian System of Work into our view and start to build these rich data visualizations to help inform more decisions for different teams and leaders. So here we've got portfolio financials where we can understand the budget, the spend, the dates. what budget have we got remaining, and how that splits between CapEx and OpEx. And of course, we might want to understand how that breaks down per initiative so we can get that view as well. And of course, everything here being in real time with that connected data source within your organization. Thank you all for joining today's Jira Align product demo with Accelerate. I hope that you've gained valuable insights into the Atlassian system of work and the connected enterprise, and where Jira Align fits into that picture, and the capabilities that you can use to implement and drive real measurable success from strategy to execution. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with three key takeaways. The importance of that clarity from strategy to execution, providing visibility and alignment across your teams and portfolios. Having confidence in the data that you use to make decisions, and whether or not it's in the format that you need it in, and whether or not you've got access to it at the tip of your fingers. So do you have that real-time data? And ultimately, when we've got this real-time data and this connected enterprise, that decision advantage that you have,